بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Inshallah, let's share the screen and then inshallah we start with Tafseer of Surah Al-Baqarah. So as you hopefully remember, that we are in the section of Surah Al-Baqarah. We look at this to recap the overall structure of Surah Al-Baqarah. So the central theme is to remind us, and this is very important because the section we're going to look at today about married life, majority of us believers, we don't see married life in context of this central theme. So the central theme is essential to understand the context. So this is essentially saying that we as a Muslim Ummah have an obligation to convey the message of Allah. That is why we exist. That is the whole objective of our existence as a unit of believers. And that unit of believers starts with the person, but then the most important aspect of that unity is family. So therefore, family is so important, is essential for the conveying of message, which is our obligation. So inshallah, if we keep that in mind, then we would realize the importance of the married life and marriage itself and the objective of marriage. So inshallah, keeping that in mind, then we look at the ayat today. Khair. So the first section was essentially an introductory section to the surah and the guidance of Allah, where the guidance, the people who benefit believe, they are believers. The people who disbelieve are the people who will not benefit. Of course, they would be punished in the hereafter. And then the munafiqeen, the hypocrites, are posing to be believers, but they are actually not believers. Then Allah Ta'ala, He gives us a very detailed discourse on the previous nation, the previous Ummah of Bani Israel, to tell us that this is what they did. They were absolved of their responsibility. They were removed. Now you have been given now this responsibility, and your job is this. This is your job. Your job is to submit to Allah and convey the message of Allah. This is your job now. This is your job role description. This is what's expected of you. So with that in mind, let's go into our section. So we looked at this section 10 regarding social commands. We looked at the ahkam regarding alcohol and gambling in the surah, which is a social phenomenon. Orphans, nikah have been mentioned, and hayd was mentioned, as well as oaths. So now we want to go into this quite a lengthy section on divorce. So this is from 226 to 233, actually, it will continue. So just to remind ourselves, this surah, we have Iman, Islam, central theme, which is convey the message, our vision, mission, and then jihad and infaq, or infaq and qital. So this comes under Islam. This section comes under Islam regarding divorce. So let's inshallah start to look at these ayat regarding divorce and any other marital matters. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. للذين يؤلون من نسائهم تربص أربعة أشهر فإن فاءوا فإن الله غفور رحيم. For those who swear not to have relations with their wives is a waiting time of 4 months, but if they return, then indeed Allah is forgiving and merciful. So this is talking about a practice called ila, where a husband would separate himself from his wife before, this is of course before the ahkam in the Qur'an and the Prophet ﷺ. So they would leave their wives, and then they would essentially leave them neither as wives nor as divorced women. So they would keep them in suspense, if you like, suspense. So now they don't have the rights of a wife because there's no relation with them. At the same time, they are not free to then end this marriage and then be divorced and then seek new marriage. So Allah Ta'ala is saying this type of practice which was going on and women were not given their right. Essentially, Allah Ta'ala, He is giving them the right. And we should remember one thing. We have the rights that Allah gives us. We have God-given rights. We cannot decide what is our right and what is your right and what is his or her right. Allah, He is the one. He is Al-Haq, the truth, the one who knows best what is who's right, what is right. So He gives us this right. So Allah Ta'ala, He is telling us the right of a woman who is left in this suspense. The maximum period of this can be 4 months. If within this 4 months the husband takes her to be his wife and he returns and fulfills her rights, then that's fine. Allah Ta'ala, He would forgive and He is merciful. But if you are not going to do that, then automatically after those 4 months, then the wife would seek through the authorities, the qadi, the judge, the authorities, that I have been left for 4 months, so I should now then file, if you like to use this term, I will file for separation and divorce. So then Allah Ta'ala, He has limited this to 4 months so that nobody can extend that and leave them without their rights. And then after that, Allah Ta'ala, He is telling us about talaq. So talaq, the word talaq, means for something to be freed, mutlaq, something which is open-ended and free, and is not any more muqayyad, not any more bound. So talaq is the freeing of the husband and the wife, and more the wife, from the contract, social contract of nikah. So nikah is a social contract between a believing man and a believing woman, which they take with the permission of the guardian of the female, the wali. Because Allah Ta'ala mentions, Ati'u Allah wa ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. The father is the wali of the daughter. And if the father is not there, then it can be the older brother, or it can be his uncles, etc. Anyway, so the wali will give permission, and then there will be 2 witnesses that will witness this contract, this social contract of marriage between these 2 believers. And the objective of marriage is to uphold the limits of Allah, to live a life of obedience to Allah, and to then seek Allah Ta'ala's bounty in terms of His provision of progeny, of children, and to then bring them up to also be the servants and the believers and worshippers of Allah. This is the objective of marriage. And the intention should be that this is a lifelong commitment, as long as the objectives of marriage are being fulfilled, which is to create a happy family life, to bring up happy and healthy, socially responsible children who would then become the best citizens in a society because they would call to Allah and they would believe and practice the deen of Allah. So this is the objective of marriage. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, وَإِنْ أَزَمُوا الطَّلَاقِ, if you decide on divorce for the people who want to then divorce their wives, then فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ, Allah Ta'ala, He is hearing and knowing. He sees what you do, He knows what you do. If you are doing it with this objective, He knows, and if you are doing it for any other objective, He knows. So you have to have the fear and taqwa of Allah in these matters, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said in his last khutbah, that you take your wives as a trust from Allah, but treat them well. They are your helpers, etc., etc. Yeah. So marriage is not a joke. Marriage is serious business where you are answerable to Allah, essentially. And the objective of marriage is to be able to convey the message as society. This is the whole objective of being married. We unfortunately don't have this in mind. And we get married because everybody gets married, so it's just custom. So this is not the correct understanding. We should have clarity, because Allah Ta'ala, He has made this clear to us. Bayyin, mubin, everything is mubin. Alhamdulillah. So now regarding the women who are divorced. وَالْمُطَلَّقَاتُ يَتَرَبَّصْنَ بِأَنفُسِهِنَّ ثَلَاثَةَ قُرُوءٍ ولا يحل لهن أن يكتمن ما خلق الله في أرحامهن إن كن يؤمن بالله واليوم الآخر وبعولتهن أحق بردهن في ذلك إن أرادوا إصلاحا ولهن مثل الذي عليهن بالمعروف وللرجال عليهن درجة والله عزيز حكيم. So let's take this bit by bit. First thing we should understand that if many things to really mention here. If the marriage is not fulfilling the objective, which is to keep to Allah Ta'ala's hudud, His laws, His obedience, His pleasure, and the family life is not productive, it is incompatible, etc., etc. Rights are not being fulfilled, etc. And then the Qur'an tells us that if there is some issue here, then you should appoint a arbitrator between the man and the woman. So the man's side pick somebody as a hakam, and from the lady's side pick somebody as a hakam. So they can then try to reconcile the difference, or they can maybe see a solution, a way out, to advise and to bring the marriage to a healthy marriage. Again, there are many other things, but there is a whole process. The objective of what I'm trying to say is this is a whole process, because marriage is very, very important. However, unlike other religions that usually have an extreme stance on marriage and divorce, there is one extreme of the people of Quraysh they had, and some Jewish law, which allows you to very simply, easily divorce anytime. Simple. Immediately takes effect, and that's the end of it. And the woman can marry straight away. The same day she can remarry someone else. Need to make divorce very easy, and it's that simple. This is one extreme. The other extreme is the extreme of the people who believe in Isa alayhi salam, who claim to believe in Isa, the Christians. So they had this extreme belief that no, marriage is for life, till death do us part. You may have heard this. These are the vows that a bride and groom, they take, husband and wife, in their wedding, that till death do us part. And they mean it, because for them it was haram to get divorced. It was haram to be divorced, to the extent they even claimed that to be divorced, then this will lead to zina. And there is some background to that. Khair. So there are two extremes. Yeah? One is making this talaq easy as, like you buy something, you have 14-day guarantee. You take it back, you say, yes, I don't like it, I want it back, finish. No, not that easy. And the other is you can't divorce at all. So Allah Ta'ala has given us a way out, talaq, but due process has to be followed. It is not just as a whim, as a desire, as an emotional decision. No, everything has to be looked at, and your family, especially your family and people around you who care for you, Allah has built a network of support, help, and care. Arham, arham, ulul arham literally means the people who protect you, who have mercy, love for you. Yeah. So these people are there. We are there for each other, to help each other. If we have the vision though, we have to have the Quranic vision though. Otherwise we are really lost. So talaq is there, but as a last resort. And there are some people who say, I don't know yet for sure if this hadith is sahih or not, that halal, that from the halal things, talaq is the most disliked by Allah. I have heard some people of knowledge say that, but I would like if maybe Brother Bilal or Muslim, they can ask Sheikh about the authenticity of this hadith, at-talaq, that talaq abghadul halal, or something along those lines. Khair. Wal-mutalaqqat, wal-mutalaqqatu. So for the lady who has been divorced, they need to stay without getting remarried for up to 3 periods. 3 periods. Now, there's a lot of discussion about this. Is this the period of her purity, tuhur, or is it the period of her monthly cycle? So majority of people, they say, if you read the discussion in Ibn Kathir, etc., that this refers to the hayd, that after 3 hayd, yes, 3 hayd have been completed, then this is the waiting period of the wife that has been divorced by her husband. And there are stages of divorce, as we will see in the next ayah. But let's just take this for now, inshallah, and then we link it. And وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَهُنَّ أَن يَكْتُمْنَ مَا خَلَقَ اللَّهُ فِي أَرْحَامِهِنَّ إِن كُنَّ يُؤْمِنَّ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. And if in this time period it is not, they are not allowed to hide the fact that if they have now become pregnant, yeah, they should not hide the fact that they have become pregnant, or that they are having their cycles. They should not hide this. And we see that this really, talaq, if you look at talaq, all the ahkam, you will see they are to protect the women, to protect the children, to protect the rights of women, to protect the rights of children that are born, the inheritance right, the right to know the lineage, the nasab. Because if a lady was able to divorce today and tomorrow she gets married to somebody else, and she is already expecting that, who knows who is the father? Nobody knows. Maybe she would know, but nobody else would know. And then this would not be right, because then the father has a right to the son or the daughter, and the daughter or the son has a right to the real father, and then there is inheritance, etc., etc. So therefore, Allah Ta'ala, He has given us these beautiful ahkam and guidance on how to conduct ourselves in this situation. وَبُؤُولَتُهُنَّ أَحَقُّ بِرَدِّهِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ إِنْ أَرَادُوا إِصْلَاحًا. And within this time period of the 3 cycles, within this time limit, then the husband has a right to take her back if they both. Aradu actually means all of them. And aradu can also refer to the fact that if both families, so it is hinting towards the families, should be involved, if they all intend that there should be some reconciliation, then it is better to take that. Just as Allah Ta'ala mentions, وَصُلْحُ خَيْرٌ. It is better to reconcile if that will fulfill the objectives of marriage. وَلَهُنَّ مِثْلُ الَّذِي عَلَيْهِنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And for them, there is and due to them, the wives is similar to what is expected of them, to what is reasonable. But men have a degree over them in responsibility and authority, and Allah is exalted in might and might. So what does this mean? This is telling us that the wives, they have a right. They have a right. Yeah, they have a right. And the men also have a right upon them. So Marriage is a matter of fulfilling your obligations towards each other. So men have rights over women, women have rights over men, the husband has right over the wife has the right over the husband. So this is a mutual contract where you promise to fulfill each other's rights. But who are you actually obeying? You're obeying Allah. Because Allah, He has given those rights. So this is the essence. Taqwa is the essence of marriage. وَلِلرِّجَالِ إِلَيْهِنَّ دَرَجَةٌ. Although Allah, He has given the husband, the man, a degree of responsibility over the women, meaning because Allah Ta'ala, He has given us a system to organize ourselves in the marriage institution. He has given the responsibility of leading the family to the husband, the financial responsibility, economic upbringing, well-being, care, social, psychological, emotional responsibility is of the husband. And the wife's responsibility is to then obey Allah in all of these matters, as Allah has said, just as the husband has the responsibility. But the final decision Allah has given to the husband, and the wife has the advisory role. She has the right to advise. But because any organization cannot run without one leader, therefore we should have one leader. Simple. Really, Allah has made it so that there is leadership and not chaos. Because otherwise there would be dispute, and then if nobody has the authority over somebody, just like if you go to work, for example, I'll give you a simple example. You go to work and you have a line manager, yeah? And your line manager says, we have to do this job, and I want you to do it like this. Now you may suggest that I think this is a better way to do it, yeah? But end of the day, whatever the line manager decides, you are obliged to follow it. Why? Think about it. Why? Is he superior human to you? No. Because if every person in that team disputes with the manager and everybody says, I will do it my way, then nothing will be done. Yeah, it will cause chaos. So therefore, Allah Ta'ala, He has organized us. This is the way we look at things. In terms of the status of men and women, they are equal in the eyes of Allah. Yeah? In the eyes of Allah, they are equal. There is no difference in the male and female. There is just difference of the roles. Wallahu Azizun Hakim. Allah, He is irresistible, all-powerful, almighty, and He is completely wise in all of His ahkam. Now Allah Ta'ala is telling us about talaq. At-talaq essentially is marratan. Talaq should be given twice only. So in the Jahiliyyah, the people would give many talaq to the wife, many times, limitless. And then they would take them back. Then they would talaq, and then back, and talaq, and then back. This is a joke. This was a joke. So all the time the women were afraid that he would divorce me, and there's no limit. There's no limit to it. Imagine that. SubhanAllah. Allah Ta'ala has limited it. He has limited it. He has said, At-talaq marratan, divorce should be done twice if you are going through the process of divorce. So in the first time you give the talaq, you mention that I'm divorcing you. And then فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيعٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. And then after this, so you have to think about this, because otherwise you will misunderstand this. Let me explain this at-talaq marratan first. Talaq is 2 times. So first talaq person gives to somebody, and they wait for the waiting period of 3 months, or 3 months, ثلاثة قروء, 3 cycles. And within that, the husband and the wife agree to reconcile. Fine. Alhamdulillah. No problem. Second time, some other time, he gives talaq to her, some other time. But the first one he gave, it still counts, yeah? Because in your life, you give that one, and now you're giving 2. It's no joke. Then again, if within the waiting period, they both reconcile, they come back together, no problem. that's fine. Yeah. Or if the time period elapses, they can remarry. They can remarry. First, after first talaq and the period finishes and they can remarry. The second time talaq and the period finishes, they don't reconcile, but they can then remarry after that. But after that, if he then gives third one, then that's finished. Khalas, that's it. There's no reconciliation after that. There's no reconciliation after that. And the Prophet ﷺ, the ahadith mentioned, and the attitude and the practice of the Sahaba was that anybody who would misuse this, because the sunnah of talaq, make a note of what is the sunnah of talaq. How to give divorce, how to divorce a wife. We should know this. Men and women should know. If you have a fight with your wife, of course, because then you, or your wife has a fight with you, etc. Of course, you will, because of that, you want to divorce, yeah, because you are not getting on. You are not allowed to give the divorce unless and until, number one, the wife is in her pure, in her tohur, in her pure period, if you like. Yeah, she's not with her cycle, so she's out of the cycle. And in that period of purity, you have not had any intimate relations. Only in that situation you can give divorce. So, for example, the husband divorced and wife have a fight, dispute, and this is the time of her cycle. So husband is not allowed to give divorce there. He has to wait for the cycle to finish, and then for her to go into her purity, and then not to have had relationship with her, then he can divorce. So imagine this, how Allah Ta'ala He's delaying all of this because not to make a decision in the heat of the moment. This is the whole objective here. To teach us, you cannot make this decision, because this decision is not just a decision that affects you and her. This will affect you, your family, your children, the extended family, and society at large. So you can't just take a rash decision. This is called socially responsible attitude. This is what Allah Ta'ala is teaching us. So let me repeat. You cannot divorce until the wife is in her period of purity and you have not had relationship with her in that period of purity. Then you give the talaq. After that, then the period will start of iddah, which is the 3 cycles. If within this they reconcile, they come back fine. If not, they can marry, even remarry after the first or the second, as I mentioned. And then Allah Ta'ala saying, فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. If you have done the third one now, فَإِمْسَاكٌ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. Sorry, not the third one. If you want to take them back, Allah Ta'ala is saying, it is not lawful for you to take anything of what. Then after that, either keep her in an acceptable manner or release her with good treatment. So Allah Ta'ala is teaching us, if you have decided to give the talaq, then, sorry, I just get confused because of this. People keep admitting again. Okay, please, okay. So if you, after the first talaq, you have decided to take her back, then you should take her back nicely, yeah? In a very nice, decent, and the way that things should be done. Or if you want to divorce her, then you should do it also bi ihsan. You should do it in a very nice manner, not in a rash and ignorant and abusive manner. And then Allah Ta'ala is saying, وَلَا يَحِلُّ لَكُمْ أَن تَأْخُذُوا مِمَّا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ شَيْئًا إِلَّا أَن يَخَافَ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ أَلَّا يُقِيمَ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا فِيمَا افْتَدَتْ بِهِ تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا مَنْ يَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَ اللَّهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. So one thing to note here is look at how many times حُدُودُ اللَّهِ is mentioned here. So if we count here, Hududullah once, 2, 3, 4 times. Hududullah, Hududullah, Hududullah have been mentioned. The limits of Allah, the limits of Allah, the limits of Allah, the limits of Allah. Meaning what Allah has said. Stick to what Allah has said. So don't transgress the limits of Allah. So Allah Ta'ala is saying, if you divorce them, then you do not have the right to take anything back from them that you have given them. You cannot take anything back from them that you have given them, except if the wife asks for khula. Yes, except if the wife asks for the khula. If the wife asks for the divorce, and there is a whole process of that, etc., then knowingly that you will not be able to keep to the hudud of Allah, neither you nor the wife. That is why you are separating now, divorcing. So then if the wife asks for the khula, then you can, if she is willing, she can and you can accept that she gives you back something. But the scholars, they say that you should not ask for more than she can give, or they say sometimes you should not ask for more than the mahr. So yeah, this is just showing us that this can also be approached in this manner. If she asks for the khula, then she can. And the other point that one of the scholars was mentioning was that especially if she is the one who is the, if you like, the cause of this divorce now, that there is the case is against her, that she is the one who is causing the issue, then she can pay the dowry or whatever back to the husband, and he can accept that. Wallahu alam. Tilka hududullahi fala ta'taduha. These are the limits of Allah. Do not transgress them, because whoever transgresses them, then these people are the people who have done zulm upon themselves. And then Allah Ta'ala is telling us that once they are divorced, فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا, once she has been divorced, meaning third divorce has been given now. The other thing is that many people ask these things. Somebody gives 3 divorces in one go. So this is a bid'ah. This is a deplorable. The Prophet ﷺ, how to explain it? He was very, very, very upset and angry about this situation. Umar radiallahu anhu, he would, to a person, because this is against the sunnah, absolutely. This is against the whole ahkam. You can't give the divorce like this. Yeah, you give 1, you wait, then 2, then wait. This is the procedure. If somebody has been so out of order that he gives his 3 divorces in one go, then, I mean, there's lots of differences of opinions about this, which I'm not qualified to go into in detail, although the Tafseer mentioned them. But it's best to ask people who deal with these things on an everyday basis, like people of Islamic Sharia Council, etc. That these people, Umar radiallahu anhu, he accepted the divorce, but he then lashed the husband. He lashed them to show that this is how evil it is what you have just done. You have misused this right of divorce. And one of the scholars I was listening to, he was saying that when people know, when the husband knows that I will be lashed if I misuse this, then he won't misuse this. Many people make excuse that, oh, I was angry. When you know that you'll be lashed, you won't get angry. It will put you into line. So therefore, do not misuse the hudud Allah. Do not misuse. These are the limits of Allah. Do not misuse this. فَإِن طَلَّقَهَا فَلَا تَحِلُّ لَهُ مِن بَعْدُ حَتَّى تَنْكِحَ زَوْجٍ غَيْرَهُ. Now, once a woman has been divorced, she is now, because this means the third divorce has been given, which is final, khalas. Then she is not halal for the first husband until she has married another husband and they have been husband and wife with the intention to be husband and wife, not with the intention to just do a puppet marriage and then divorce so that I can go back to my first husband. No, this the Prophet ﷺ, he cursed in the hadith, he cursed this practice, that people will make this a means to go back to their original husband. This is cursed by the Prophet ﷺ. So until they marry with the intention, because in marriage, nikah is all about intention to be together for the sake of Allah and to live together. And they have had the relation together, the intimate relationship. Then after that, if the husband then, as it happens, divorces for the right reason, etc., then she is only allowed to and halal to the first husband if they want to remarry. فإن طلقها فلا جناح عليهما أن يتراجعا إن ظن أن يقيما حدود الله. And if he, the latter husband, divorces her or dies, there is no blame upon them, meaning the woman and the first husband, if they want to get back. But what is the objective? That they know, inna dhanna. Dhanna is very important here. Dhanna. Dhanna here means they are sure. They are sure that they will be able to stick to the laws of Allah in marriage. They will be able to, they are sure that they are going to stick to the responsibilities and obligations to each other. And they are sure. This is dhanna. Yes, dhanna. It's not just as it says if they think. No, dhanna is they are sure about it. Aghlab, which means they are very sure. Not just think, very sure. Tilka hududullah, again, these are the limits of Allah. يُبَيِّنُهَا لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. These have been made clear for people who understand, who have knowledge, who think, who understand. So what is the objective of marriage? If you look at these ayat, is to yuqima hududallah, is to establish the limits of Allah, is to be obedient to Allah. This is the whole objective of marriage. People live in cuckoo land, they live in Bollywood, Lollywood, Hollywood, whatever wood. They live in the woods and they think marriage is all about that. No, this is not the objective of marriage. It is to establish the hududullah on yourself and to establish families who would stick to the hududullah and to establish a society and call to the obedience of Allah. This is the whole objective of marriage. Okay. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ فَأَمْسِكُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ صَرِّحُوهُنَّ بِمَعْرُوفٍ. So if when you divorce women and they have nearly fulfilled their term, either you keep them with you on acceptable terms or you release them on acceptable terms. Yeah, so we have mentioned this already. وَلَا تُمْسِكُهُنَّ ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا. Do not have this intention that you will take her back and she will live with you, but then you will cause her issues. ضِرَارًا لِتَعْتَدُوا, to harm her and to transgress against her rights in revenge, in anger, in jealousy, etc., etc. No, this is wrong. The other thing is that it is not allowed for the husband, if he gives, for example, first talaq and the lady cannot leave the house. She has to be with him. She has to stay all the time with him. Because the whole objective here is to try to reconcile between the two. They cannot just leave each other and separate from each other. No, this is not the right way. وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَقَدْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ. Whoever does this, keeps the wife, takes her back in order to now emotionally torture her or to seek revenge on her or to harm her, then this person has wronged himself. Yeah, himself. He will be punished for this. Allah Ta'ala is watching. وَلَا تَتَّخِذُوا آيَاتِ اللَّهِ هُزُوًا. Allah Ta'ala is warning, don't take Allah Ta'ala's ayat as a joke. Yeah? Don't think this is a joke, that you can do what you want. And you say, because technically you will say, oh, I have the right to take it back, but Allah knows the intention. He knows. If your intention is wrong, but you're misusing the law, then this is mockery. This is a mockery of the ayat of Allah. وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَمَا أَنزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ الْكِتَابِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ يَعِظُكُمْ بِهِ. You should remember Allah Ta'ala's favor upon you, that He has sent this book and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ in order to remind you, admonish you, guide you, teach you, and remind you not to do the wrong thing, but to do it in the right way. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ fear Allah. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And you should know that Allah Ta'ala, He has knowledge of everything that you are doing, because this is a very, very sensitive and very delicate matter of marriage and divorce, etc., and the rights and the relationship between husband and wife. تِلْكَ حُدُودُ اللَّهِ and اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ fear Allah. He is all aware, all watching of what you do. And therefore, when you fear Allah, you will not be overcome by emotion, you will not be overcome by anger, you will not be overcome by all of these things that would make you accountable in front of Allah. Okay. وَإِذَا طَلَّقْتُمُ النِّسَاءَ, and when you divorce women, فَبَلَغْنَ أَجَلَهُنَّ, and they have fulfilled their term, فَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ أَن يَنْكِحْنَ أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ إِذَا تَرَاضَوْا بَيْنَهُمْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Then do not prevent them from remarrying their former husbands if both of them agree amongst them that they want to remarry. So this is talking to the families, that if once a husband has given the first talaq and within that waiting period, then after that they want to remarry, they can. Don't try to stop that. Yeah, don't try to stop that. If they both are going to agree to this, do not stop them from doing that. ذَلِكَ يُعَذُ بِهِ مَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ يُؤْمِنُ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ. This is an admonition and advice for those people amongst you who believe in Allah and the last day, meaning that if you are true believers, then you will not do this. ذَلِكُمْ أَزْكَى لَكُمْ وَأَطْهَرُ. This is better for you and more purifying for you. So you see, in this section, Allah Ta'ala, He is talking to us in the plural. أَزْوَاجَهُنَّ, your women. Allah Ta'ala is saying, minkum, dhalikum, azkalakum. All of this, Allah Ta'ala is talking to us as a Muslim society, as a Muslim unity, that we are all caring for each other, and especially the families, that they are being advised here that this is better and more purifying for you, that you follow the instructions of Allah. Wallahu ya'lamu wa antum la ta'lamun. Allah knows better, you don't know. Allah knows. And this is really the crux of the matter. Many times people, they say, oh, why the iddah should be this much or that much, or why not this and why not this, and why can't we do this, and why, how come this, why, etc. Allah Ta'ala is saying, I know. Don't think that these rules and these laws are just random. This Allah Ta'ala, He is Hakim. Allah Ta'ala is Hakim. He has done this for your own benefit. And when you study this, wallahi, and you live the life, you realize the blessings of this, and you compare this with any other divorce, laws of divorce, etc. They are shambles. They are chaos. And I remember one quote that I quoted, I think in one of the other drus, by one of the advisors to, I think it was Nixon, President Nixon, one of his advisors. He became Muslim. I don't remember his name exactly. So he became Muslim, and he was once talking to a Jewish lawyer, and he says that I asked him, we were discussing about divorce, and I asked him, how much information is there about divorce, the law of divorce? And he said that the law of divorce is over, if I remember correctly, 7 or 8 La ilaha illallah, volumes, huh? And then he said, what if I show you just one paragraph or a few paragraphs? And then he showed him, no, this was inheritance, sorry, regarding inheritance. And then he showed him the ayat about inheritance. And this Jewish person also became Muslim. He said, this is amazing that such an accurate and such an all-encompassing law has been mentioned in just a few verses. Subhanallah, this must be from Allah. So Allah Ta'ala, He knows, Allah Ta'ala, He knows when you don't know. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ. So we will just read this for now and then we will stop, inshallah. لمن أراد أن يتم الرضاعة وعلى المولود له رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف لا تكلف نفس إلا وسعها لا تضار والدة بولدها ولا مولود له بولده وعلى الوارث مثل ذلك فإن أراد استفصالا عن تراض منهما وتشاور فلا جناح عليهما وإن أردتم أن تسترضعوا أولادكم فلا جناح عليكم إذا سلمتم ما آتيتم بالمعروف واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله بما تعملون بصير. Again, taqwa. So let's just read this for now, inshallah. Mothers may nurse their children 2 complete years for whomsoever wishes to complete the nursing. Upon the father is the mother's provision and their clothing according to what is acceptable. No person is charged with more than his capacity. No mother should be harmed through her child, and no father should through his child. And upon the father's heir is a duty like that of the father. And if they both desire weaning through mutual consent from both of them and consultation, there is no blame upon either of them. And if you wish to have your children nursed by a substitute, another woman, then there is no blame upon you as long as you give payment according to what is acceptable and fear Allah and know that Allah is watching everything that you do. So just to summarize this section, that the sunnah way of divorce is to divorce the wife in the tohar, in the period of purity, and the purity in which you have not had any relationship with her. And then for the first divorce, then you have a waiting period of 3 cycles. If within that you reconcile, fine, or after that you can remarry. And then in the second divorce, whenever that happens, same thing would count. You have to do that in the tohar, in the purity period. And then after that, for the 3 cycles within that, if you reconcile, fine. And if you don't, then you can still remarry. And then finally, if you have done the third, when you do the third, then that's the end of it. Then after the waiting period, then the lady is divorced from you. Allahu A'lam. And I think that